Hi, everyone. Coming to you from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm Scott Harrison, Artistic Director of Ironweed Productions, and I want to welcome you to our 35th episode of Talking Theater Santa Fe, a series of conversations between myself and Santa Fe theater artists, sharing stories about their experiences in the theater and the unique paths that have led them to creating theater in Santa Fe. This is actually a unique episode in the series in that I'm interviewing Dmetrius Conley-Williams, a Los Angeles-based actor and a dear friend of mine who will be coming to Santa Fe later in the month to perform in a staged reading of scenes from the Bacchae by Euripides that he and I have been collaborating on together. This is part of Santa Fe Summer Shakespeare, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Dmetrius was also here in 2019 to perform in our production of Water by the Spoonful by Chiara Allegria Udis. And he and I were in graduate school many years ago in the mid-90s at the American Repertory Theater. I'm extremely honored to have as my guest a very talented actor and, again, a dear friend of mine, Dmetrius Conley-Williams. Dmetrius, thanks so much for joining me today. A little bit more about Dmetrius before we start. Dmetrius Conley-Williams is a graduate of the Harvard Institute of Theater and the Moscow Art Theater, where he received his MFA. After graduating, he joined the American Repertory Theater for 3 seasons and also did a world tour playing Tartaglia in The King's Stag, directed by Andrei Serban and costumed by Julie Taymor. He's performed in various regional theaters throughout the country and has worked off-Broadway at the Classic Stage Company, the Barbican in London, and the Moscow Art Theater in Russia. Dmetrius played the role of Chutes and Ladders in Ironweed's 2019 production of Water by the Spoonful, part of the Eliot trilogy, which was directed by Vali Rivera. Dmetrius's voice can be heard as the lead villain Wraith in Stan Lee and Dean Studios' Japanese anime series The Reflection, which can be seen on Funimation. Dmetrius resides in downtown Los Angeles. So Dmetrius, I always I'm just always fascinated by kind of origin stories in the theater. And I just wanted to ask for you, what is your first memory of either being kind of captured by the imagination or theater? What's the first thing you remember?
Well, I didn't grow up watching a lot of theater when I was young, so I think the first thing that got me into it is that my parents, one Christmas, they purchased a Muppet doll for me. A lot of you might know who the Muppets is, and it was one of the Muppets are called Animal, and so I used to go around the house with this Muppet, and when my parents would ask me questions or anything like that, I used to answer it as Muppet. And so, was Monster. That's what it was. His name was Monster.
Yeah.
And so that was my first theater experience. Although when I was doing it at the time, I had no clue that was theater at all. That was just me having fun and me goofing off. So
that's like, I remember when I was I think I was 10 and the $6 Million Man, that show was popular back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I got one of the little $6 Million man action figures.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the same thing. I remember I would have my dad hide him in a shoebox in the house and pretend that there was a bomb that was going to go, and he would turn a timer on, and there was a bomb that was going to go off in an hour, and $6 Million Man would be and I would have to go find him in the house, and I would be playing this theme music in my head, dun 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 dun, as I was going around. Anyway, that's really fun.
I think there was a couple times that my parents hid that Muppet Animal from me a few times, because there was a couple times that it came up missing that I didn't know what happened to it. So I think I think they kind of got rid of it from time to time.
So, and do you remember how old you were when this was?
Oh, I probably was in the 3rd grade, 2nd grade.
Yeah.
No, young enough to still have a big imagination, and still have fun
Yeah.
And also and young enough where people will still put up with you having an imagination.
Right. Well, did you, I don't, do you, what's the first play that you remember seeing?
You know what? I don't remember it's actually sometimes, well, this is what I say. The first play I witnessed was the first play that I was in.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
so, so it
Yeah.
was sort so it's sort of like that. That's the way the game goes, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, because
What was that? What play was that?
oh, it was a little melodramatic show that was done by the Lexington Children's Theater at the time in Kentucky, and it was like a little spoof, you know, a little commedia dell'arte show,
Right.
and I think it was called The Pot Man Spoke Sooth. It was like a little mystery show. So yeah.
And now, so, and what initially drew you to auditioning for that?
Well, you know what? You know, when I was young, when I started acting, you know, we had a speech and drama club at the school that I went to, the junior high school that I went to, but there was nobody else. There was only me and two other people on the speech team. And in the drama club, there was only three of us because everybody else was in Future Farmers of America or Homemakers of America because I grew up in a rural place. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nobody was so, you know, we would go and compete. We would go compete against these schools who had like 40 people on the speech team, on the debate team, and there was just like three of us driving around counties competing against these people. And we did fairly well for
Oh,
three
cool.
people, and we would win, you know. And so I think that's really, and I would like to thank my teacher, who, like most teachers, would say, you know, I'm not going to get up every Saturday morning and just drive three kids around from county to county compete
Right.
when there's 50 other kids on another team.
Right.
But she believed in us, and so that's how I really got into acting. You know, I was in every department. I was in, they had a debate section, they had a monologue section, they had a dual acting section. You know what I'm saying? So I would compete in all these different fields, and I did fairly well. So that's what really pushed me
Right.
to go further into theater.
Wow. And so I know you love doing classical theater. What was kind of the seed for you of your interest in classical theater?
Well, you know, when I was 17, I joined. I went to school in Louisville, Kentucky, which had a youth performing arts school, and I only went there my senior year, and we did a production of Romeo and Juliet, and I played Benvolio, and that was all I needed. That was the seed that
Wow.
planted the tree, and so I love playing Benvolio, and so I decided right there I wanted to be a Shakespeare actor. And I remember going to a friend of mine. She was at the school as well, and I said to her, I was like, you know what? I think I want to be a Shakespeare actor. I think I want to be a classical actor. And she looked at me and she said, what are you going to do? Play Othello all your life? But lucky for me, I had a bigger scope of what things I could play in Shakespeare.
Yeah. 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 Wow. And initially, was there something about Shakespeare that most drew you? Like, was it the stories, or I know you'd mentioned to me before that you love language. And what was it about Shakespeare that really like got you jazzed initially?
Well, I think basically it was the language.
Mm-hmm.
The language, the foreignness of the language. It was very foreign from a boy who grew up in Appalachia, Kentucky, who moved to Louisville. Who moved to Lexington first and then moved to Louisville. It was just so foreign to me that's what attracted me. I've never been attracted to things that were similar or things that were familiar to me. I've always been things that were strange or foreign to me, and that was very foreign to me, and I was fascinated by the strangeness of it.
Yeah, yeah. And then, and so you I know you went to you ultimately went to New York, and you were part of the classic stage company, and they had a conservatory there. Was that what drew you to go? In other words, like, was going to New York another part of your journey about, I want to be a classical actor, and then you joined the classic stage company? Or
Well, this is what is. I was like, well, I want to go to New York, so I just auditioned for. They have like conferences in different parts of the
right.
country, like I think a SETC conference, Southern East Theater Conference, and all this. So there was one company called AMDA, the American Music Dramatic Academy, that was there, and they accepted me and on a full scholarship to go to that school.
Mhm.
So that's all I needed, and I took off like the summer between my 17th and 18th birthday. I took off to New York, and I
Wow.
joined. I became a student at AMDA. I only stayed there one semester because I hated it. It was not for me.
Yeah.
And while I auditioned for a place called CSC, which is Classical Stage Conservatory, which is off Broadway House on East 13th Street.
Yeah.
And so once I made it into there, I was like, "AMDA, I'm out of here."
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I got a way out.
Yeah. Wow. And so this was was this, because I know, and we'll talk a little bit about our experiences at ART, but it sounds like this was kind of a similar dynamic. And then they had a professional theater, but then they also had a conservatory where students.
Well, what they did, what was the real difference between ART? ART had a rep company where
Right.
they had the same actors through the season playing different roles.
Mhm.
This CSC, they had a conservatory, but they didn't have a rep company. They
Mhm.
had different actors come in to do different shows all the time. So there was not like a company of rep actors.
Mhm.
And, so I got to work with some great people like Charlotte Ray. Some of you guys may know her from Facts of Life. And then I got to work with Gene Stapleton from
Wow.
who is who All in the
Oh, the
Family.
family. Yeah. Wow.
Don Turturro, um, Nick Turturro. So I got to work with some good people, And of course, at that time, they used the conservatory students to play the ensemble
Yeah.
or small bit roles, or to get their feet wet. And also, they needed us to play us. They needed us as well.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
some of those big casts, they can't hire all equity actors, or they would go broke.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that? What was that like to be that just initial to be like an 18-year-old on stage with, like, I mean, like, Gene Stapleton, just like she's just like a legend. I mean, what was that like to work with those actors at such a young age?
It was cool, it becomes cooler the older that you get.
Yeah.
When you're in the middle, when you're young, you really don't know that you're having this cool experience until it's over.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it more than I appreciated it then.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You get,
Totally.
so so but it was a great experience. It was a great experience for me. So yeah, so the conservatory did classes in the day and performed with these great professionals at night.
Man, wow. That is so
Yeah,
cool.
and so that was really, David Patrick Kelly was one of the actors that we got to work with, and one thing that was great about CSC is that they did like Pinter,
Mm,
Breck, Samuel Beckett,
mm,
Moliere, Strindberg.
mhm.
A guy from Kentucky, Appalachian, Kentucky, had no clue who these playwrights were. So it was great to learn who these playwrights were, and I was like, wow. So
Yeah, man. And so you were there. How many years were you at that conservatory?
the conservatory was only 2 years.
2 years. Yeah. And now you ultimately started your own company and moved back to Kentucky.
Yeah.
to start your own
Uh,
company. What was the seed of wanting to do that, wanting to start your own company and move back?
well, I graduated from CSC. My time was up at CSC. I graduated and everything. And, you mill around New York and you go to these auditions and, you're on One Life to Live playing, a day play or whatever. And, you're playing, you have to understand, I was only like 21 when I graduated from, I was like 21, yeah, about 21, going to my 21st birthday when I graduated from CSC. At 21, you're very impatient. You want to graduate and you want to become a big star right away. And so because I didn't become a big star right away, I was like, wow, I'm ready to get out of this place and start my own thing. So that's what happened. Um, so, I moved to Kentucky. Also, when I moved to Kentucky, I had a couple of students who wanted to start their own start their own theater as well. So we all moved to Kentucky together.
Oh, wow.
And so we wanted to start our own classical theater in Lexington, Kentucky.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So that's what we did. And it was good. We were there like let's see. We hung out there for 2 years, and then after a while, they were from big cities. I think they were not used to being in a small town like Lexington, Kentucky. Even though Lexington, Kentucky is the biggest city in Kentucky, but I think they got tired of it, and and they want to do different things with their lives. So the company only lasts like 2.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great though that you all did that together. Wow.
Yeah. And we had, our first season was a great season. We did The Good Doctor, Hedda Gabler, 6 Degrees of Separation. Let's see, we did Waiting for Godot.
Man.
So we did some so-called heavy stuff. I think it was heavier than what the town
was ready for.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. How cool though to dig into those plays.
Yeah, and
to be creating it yourself, to be creating.
Yeah, and it was great because CSC gave us that foundation that gave us the arrogance to be able to think that we could pull it off.
Right. Yeah. So when you went to ART, so your first year there was like 1994, I think, right?
Yes.
So what was it that drew you to wanting to go to ART?
Well, the thing about it is that when I was in Kentucky and my comrades had left because they want to go back to the city. One lived in LA before, her family was in LA, and my friend's family was in New York, and they wanted to go back. And so I was stuck in Kentucky by myself, and I was like, well, I can't run this theater company by myself. I was like, well, you did some good work for 2 years, so what's your next plan, Dmetrius? And so I was thinking, well, I'm going to apply for grad schools. So I start looking up different grad schools, and I auditioned for a few grad schools, and I got accepted in NYU, and I got accepted at ART. And so I decided to go to ART because I was already in New York before, and I wanted a different experience.
Wow.
So I wanted to go to Boston,
Yeah.
And also I wanted to step foot on the AR. I always wanted to step foot on the Harvard campus as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And see what that experience was like, and just that would have. I just wanted a new experience of being at Harvard.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's interesting. I remember when I don't know what your experience is there when you first went there. I remember when I got accepted, I went, and I was there the year after you were, and or yeah, I was first year when you were a second year.
Right.
When I remember when I went to visit, and I was in my early 30s. It was cool because I felt like, I was with some other people that were just totally enamored with the whole, and just like, this is incredible. This is going to be amazing. And for me, there were things about it that I thought, wow, this is really exciting. And there were other things I was like, I felt like I was kind of seeing the full picture. If you know what I mean? I feel like, well, this stuff might not be, I just felt like I was, maybe because I was, I don't know, in my 30s or whatever, I wasn't in that place of just like, oh, this is going to be everything. This is going to be nirvana. I thought this is going to be I'm really looking forward to this experience. There's going to be some good stuff. I'm sure there's going to be some difficult stuff. And ultimately that's what it was. But for me, obviously the wonderful stuff far outweighs the challenging stuff. But when you first got there, I mean, did you have that sense too? Or were you, did you feel like you saw it with a 3-dimensional lens, if that makes sense?
Well, the thing about, I guess the thing about it, Scott, I guess is, to me, it's a lot about where you come from before you get there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm from Appalachia, Kentucky. So going there, I thought it was the greatest thing that I've ever experienced in my life. So. Yeah. So, the ART at Harvard could never do any wrong, because of like, it was better than what I was doing before.
Yeah.
So I was very, I always felt very fortunate to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a lot of people that was very discouraged being there because I think they thought it should be more than what it promised. But I had no, when they say ignorance is bliss, sometimes I had no clue what was going on. And, and I was still like in my 20s, at that time. So so I was still like a little young thing just bopping around going, hey, I'm walking through Harvard Yard right now. I'm having fun, Right. I'm going to drink my student loan money up.
Yeah. Right.
So I was just having a good time.
Yeah.
And the work was important. But I was like, but the work ain't important unless you're having fun doing it.
Totally. Yeah.
And actually, I think that sort of worked in my favor, because even though I was at this serious institution, I didn't take it as seriously. And so I think that worked in my favor. While I was there, I had a chance to come back and be a company member after I graduated.
Yeah. And that's, because I remember, so my second year and the year that you had left and you came back as a company member, I know you and I were in, although we weren't on stage together, but we were in Taming of the Shrew together. And then
and that was Andre Saban, right? That was Andre
Saban. Yeah. And then you were in the Bacchae, and I remember that production, and I remember you played the servant messenger. I remember your messenger speech so well. It was so compelling. And Francois Rocher directed it. For me, it's really cool. You and I have this opportunity to collaborate together on this play after it's 25 years ago. What was that? Talk about that experience of doing the Bacchae.
You scared me when you say 25 years ago.
I know. I'm
like, don't say things like that.
I know. Sorry. Yeah, no more. I know. I was like, how is that even possible? I was 25. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Don't say things.
No more. Yeah. My lips are sealed.
You make me nervous when you.
It was a few years back.
Exactly. Just several years back. What was the question again?
What was that experience like for you? That experience with the Bacchae with Francois?
Well, first of all, the experience was okay. First of all, I knew they were doing the Bacchae. Okay, when I graduated, maybe 3 days or 4 days before I graduated, I found out they were doing the Bacchae next season.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to be in that play because I had seen pictures of, there's a place called the Living Theater that did it. And I saw pictures of that production like maybe 10 years before in a magazine. And I was like, I would love to be in that production. So it was lucky for me. So after I had graduated, the next day after I graduated, we were still going to school. We still have 2 more weeks of school. I went up to Francois and I said, I would love for you to cast me in the Bacchae next year. He said, oh, don't worry about it. I've already taken care of that. So,
wow.
But I didn't know what role I was going to play or anything.
That's cool, though.
And he said, and we've asked you asked for you to join the season for next year as well. So you're going to be doing 3 other plays.
Man.
And so that was cool. So the Bacchae was a very good experience for me because it was my first main stage job at a big theater.
Yeah.
Getting paid really well, and it was a great experience for me. And I felt like, okay, I got a pretty easy role playing the messenger, and it was a 3-page speech. And I was like, oh, it's pretty easy. But then once I started learning it, I was like, the messenger is the hardest part. Because the thing about the messengers, all the action happens off stage.
Yeah. Right.
And the messenger is sort of the storyteller.
Yeah.
So he has to create this visual for everybody to see in their mind, to spark everyone's imagination.
Yeah.
So they can see the travesty that happens when Pentheus go on top of that hill.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this speech is harder than I thought it was, because now I have to create these moments.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure that everybody see these moments, because they don't actually get to see them on stage. So as much as, at first I was like, playing the messenger, it's going to be pretty easy. But then the more I got into it, the harder it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that speech. And that was such a cool production. And it's interesting because I got to work on it. I studied at the Studio Theater in DC before, coming to ART, and they had Joy Zinnemann, who was just a wonderful teacher there and headed the whole conservatory. They had an acting class in Greek theater, and I got to work on, on the Bacchae, and I just remember reading that play, and I was like, this is the most unique of the Greek plays to me. It's just so, it's so hard. And it was, I don't know, it was such a cool, and like you said, I mean, the messenger speeches, I remember that because we each had to work on a messenger speech. And it's like you say, like all the action really takes place off stage, and it's the messenger's job to really paint that picture for the audience.
Paint the picture and sort of the emotion as well.
Exactly. Right.
Like he has to create the emotion. He has to, he has, it's like the messenger is like someone that tells a ghost story at a campfire.
Totally.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. Everyone has to be like.
He's the counselor at the camp that tells the scary story of, of the myths of, of the town that they live in. Do you get what I'm saying? So, if you don't have a good messenger, you really don't have a decent, Greek play.
Right.
Also, it was my first Greek play as well. I had never.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my first one.
That's so, and I know we this opportunity for us to work together, which I'm hugely grateful for, came about. Just want to say a big thank you to Ariana Karp, who's artistic director of International Shakespeare Center, who invited Ironweed to be part of the Santa Fe Summer Shakespeare. And it's just interesting how it evolved, because I've been wanting to, you and I have never worked on stage together before, and I've been thinking about, man, I would love to work with Dmetrius at some point, and she mentioned this, and then somehow I was like, I wonder, as I was talking to her, I said, would it be okay, even though it's a Shakespeare festival, if we did something classical? And you and I had talked a little bit about the Bacchae when you were here doing Water by the Spoonful. And anyway, Ariana was like, yeah, that would be great. And I know we talked about it, and it kind of evolved into what exactly we would do. What for you is exciting about working on this play again after all this time?
Well, I think it's a scary play.
Yeah.
It's a very scary play.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very political play without politics.
Yeah.
Without preaching politics.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very play about gender roles between male and women, what women are allowed to do and what men are allowed to do. It crosses the line between, the women. I just love the fact that the women in town are the ones who decide to go off and do their own thing and leave their men,
Mm-hmm.
It's just I like the fact that, there's something very biblical about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you one thing, not to be sacrilegious, is like, it reminds me a little bit about about the Pharaoh not accepting, God as a God. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And what Moses had to do,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
to get the Pharaoh to say, okay, take you and your God and leave, and whatever. So it's like, it hits so many levels, and hopefully when you go and see it, you'll say, oh yes, I know that. Oh yes, I know that. And each person will have a different thing that they take from it, and not everyone's going to take the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. One of the things I was thinking about this today, one of the things I love about it is it just kind of defies like a single interpretation. Like, I feel like it's just this multifaceted play that, as you said, like, it can resonate with people in just a lot of different ways.
And then you have the Maenads and the Maenads, and these people come to town and they're outsiders, and how they are treated as outsiders. And I always think about the immigrants. It's a big thing here in California. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How they are related to how Americans think about them.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that you can relate to depending on who you are.
Right.
That it does not just have one theme. It has many themes.
I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really cool how I also feel like you said, it's just got that it's just a great story. It's a scary story. It's a great, I think you even mentioned, we talked about it when we were early talking about like that campfire feeling, like what you mentioned with The Messenger. I mean, it's just got that really spooky, scary feeling to it, of just a great suspenseful story.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think it also deals with sex as well.
Mm-hmm.
What are the women doing on top of the hill? Do you know what I'm saying? What's actually going on there? So it's a lot of, also, your character, Pentheus, he transforms himself at the end of the play, and sort of, and dresses up in drag. Do you know what I'm saying? To be able to go up on top of the hill. So it deals on so many levels and so many things that you can say, you know what? This is what I got out of it. And this is what I got out of it. This is what I got out of it. And nobody is wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. I know that's what I love about it too.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, I want to, I've just thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Dmetrius, and I just wanted to just end off. I always like to end off with kind of a last question. Is there, in terms of your experience in the theater, is there, and there could be many things, but is there one kind of particular thing, a moment, like when you're working on something, when you're on stage, that moment where you just feel like, man, this is why I just love doing this. Do you know what I mean?
With me, it is the rehearsal process. I enjoy the rehearsal process more than I enjoy the performance. A lot of people like the performance because, it's like, yeah, you did a great job, you did blah, blah, blah. And you hear actors say, you said, what got me hooked was when I first, heard that applause, and then I thought this is for me. With me, it's always been about, I love the rehearsal process. I love the creation of it.
Yeah.
More so than I like the production of it.
Yeah.
I like the actual coming up with things and trying new things and saying this, and then two minds getting together, go, oh my, this is great, this is cool, we're going to do this. So I just like the process of the creation and the rehearsal. Like, I get sort of down like when it's time for us to actually perform.
Yeah.
Because then I was like, okay, we can still create, but that the putting it together, that's the fun part of me. It's like,
yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
I just love the rehearsal process.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I definitely feel the same. Well, Dmetrius, thanks a bunch. This has just been incredibly rewarding. I just want to thank you all as well for watching, and we hope that you can join us for our upcoming production, Power and Revenge. Two actors explore Euripides the Bacchae. It runs Friday, August 26th and Saturday, August 27th at 7:30 p.m. at Teatro Paraguas. It's directed in collaboration with Ariana Karp, Hint Kirkpatrick, and Tula Dillman. Also features the live steel pan drumming of Alexis Corbin. And again, it's part of the Santa Fe Summer Shakespeare, sfsummershakes.org. Admission is free with a $10 suggested donation at the door, and you can actually reserve your seats. It's a pretty small space at ironweedsantafe.com. But again, want to just thank you all for joining us, Dmetrius.
Okay, my friend has come and visit us right here.
All right.
A little doggy. All right.
Good night, y'all. Thanks so much.